Hi, this is Nicky Romero, and we're here in Holland in my studio together with Future Music. Today we're going to talk about all the production I do and the track Toulouse I did here before, how I made the sounds, how I did the synths and basses, and how I do the kick basses, a little bit of EQing, and a lot of more. So yeah, let's get ready. Yeah, so usually when I make a track, I start always with a kick and bass, because actually the kick is the most important thing for the track in my opinion. Yeah, I always have like my own bank of kick drums I made in the past and all kinds of stuff I have, so I can just pick whenever I like. I just made a kick I'm really happy with not too long ago, so I'm gonna take that for this session.
Do you always make them, or do you use sample libraries, or both?
No, I always make them. Sometimes I use like a little bit of a sample from one of the sample banks just for the top or for the mid part. But most of the time, actually low part. That's the most. I actually make it myself most of the time with plugins and stuff. Yeah, so sometimes you use like multiple layers to get to the result you want. But this is actually one I just finished, and I really like. Yeah, it's actually, I've been working on this kick drum for a long time, so I think that's something.
What did you make it in?
This one is actually a part comes from. Let me think. It was like just a rim shot, just like the top thing to get like the attack. The nice attack is from a rim shot, and the low frequency is a little bit of bassism, and it's like a plugin. And there's like a mid part, and that's from, I think, an old sample, like a kick sample somewhere. So actually this one exists with 3 layers to get this result. And I think it sounds pretty tight, like pretty short, because most of the time you have to make a decision if you want to have like either a small kick drum and a long bass, or like a long kick drum and a small bass, because you can't have both, because then the compressor, would not able to you say that, or the limiter would not be able to process that in a good way. So most of the time I choose for like a mid-half kick and a mid-half bass, so you have like a little bit of both. So this will be my kick drum for now. And if I'm looking for a bass, because I just made a few basses myself, well, that sounds weird, but I just used the Virus B to make a bass, and it's actually really easy. It's just like a sine. Not really a sine, but it's like a sine which is moving, like a little bit of a chorus. So I use that one for this session now. And yeah, so basically it's just like a sine. As you can see, it's like not really straight. So yeah, it's like moving all the time, which is also a pretty nice effect kind of thing. So I just take this part and just use this as a bass for this project. And now if you would play it together, it wouldn't sound as nice, because it's actually interrupting each other a little bit. So I'm going to put a compressor on it, and I'm going to link it to a sidechain I made in a template before. And the sidechain is actually a really small sidechain, like a small kick drum or something. I've put it into XS, so you can so you have like a small signal which decides, the strength of the sidechain. So I just moved it to the bus, so I can link it to a bus. As you can hear, that will fit better to the. If you listen to it solo, you just hear it moving.
Do you always use those compressor settings for sidechain?
I have a couple of, to be honest. As you can see, I made my own preset list, because it depends of the length of the kick, of course, and what time and what kind of release you want to have, and also what kind of attack and what kind of ratio. So most of the time, when I use this kick drum, I made a new setting for this one, and it's actually the same setting as I used for the track Toulouse I did before, and it has like 48 milliseconds of release and like 10 seconds of attack, which could be shorter, but for me, I was just too lazy to move it actually. And with an extreme threshold and a little bit of a ratio, and I think it works well with this gig. So, not really happy with the volumes yet, but I think this is gonna be fine. So basically, this is it. This is the whole low frequency I have. It's just this bass and this kick drum together, which makes it. Yeah, well, I think the bass got a little bit too much of low frequencies, so we're gonna cut a little bit off. And I use the Cambridge a lot. It's like a plugin from UAD, and it comes with the hardware you can buy from UAD. And I'm really happy with this software because you're really able to make your own peaks and everything, and it just sounds like really warm and really nice. And also with the high frequencies, when you add something of them, you will not have like the bad quality of high frequencies you're gonna have with the Logic ones. No offense to Logic, of course, but they're just like really good in the high frequencies. That's what I like a lot. So I'm just gonna remove a little bit of this, and I think this would be enough. And it sounds like it's a kick bass now. Well, it's funny because it's only like a straight sine actually. But then I just take a loop. I got my own bank of loops actually. I made in the past, and so I'm just gonna use this one for now because I just made it. I'm really happy with it.
And again, you just make them using combination of samples.
Exactly, just made them. Yeah, it sounds like I make all the instruments myself, but it's just taking like samples from here and there and edit them and put them together, and make your own loop. So it's because I don't really like to use like the standard Vengeance loops, like all of them. You know what I mean? Because then it sounds like you've been using a lot of Vengeance to make your tracks, which I think Vengeance is really good to have because they really add something to your tracks. Sometimes you just need a little bit of freshness, which you can't find in your own samples, or a little bit of reverb or something. And if you put like a sample from Vengeance in it, you'll just see what it does. You know what I mean? And then you think like, okay, well, I just need these frequencies and that frequencies to get there. And then you just try to, to not use them or use parts of them, and then just put it together on a loop and make your own sound of it. Mm-hmm. I think that would work for me though. So for now, I think I only want to use the clap from this one though. So yeah, I just take a little fade out because otherwise you hear this click on the end of the audio, and make them together as a folder, so you can actually easily put them in the arrangement. And all these kind of small things, I always look like the normal EQ from Logic because it's nice and easy. As long as you don't add frequencies, I think it's a pretty good plugin to use to work fast and to EQ fast. To remove frequencies, I think it's a pretty good EQ. As long as you're not gonna add frequencies, it works. So they have like the base of the track already, and I think it's time to look for some nice samples and loops to add. So I use a lot of Guru for that. It's a plugin. I don't think they're selling it now anymore. I'm not sure because it's a pretty old version, but I bought this like 1.5 years ago and it works pretty good for me. But they also have the Geist now, which does actually the same thing, and it's like an upgraded version, but I just didn't have the time to find out how it works. So I just keep using the Guru. It's pretty nice and easy to browse. To browse actually to all kind of samples, all kind of banks. So it's pretty nice to just you can actually hear directly what it does to your track without too much hassle of importing samples and stuff. So that's why I like it. For now, let's just find something really easy. All of a sudden, just really like this hi-hat, so I'm gonna use this hi-hat of this loop because I already have like the clap from the other one. So basically I just import it here as a MIDI region. Oh, and now you hear it double. Yeah, so basically I just want to have this as audio, not as MIDI. So I just want to have it, I'm gonna bounce a region as audio. So I can just cut it the way I like. And then you get, I really like this hi-hat because it's short and attacky, and actually what I need for this track. So that would work. We make a loop again and a folder. So that works. So we have like the bass of the track is already here by the hi-hats and having a little kick bass and a good clap, and I think that's the most important part. Adding a little bit of reverb because otherwise it gets too dry for me. I use buses for that. Yeah, oh, let me select input. I use buses for all the small things. I have like a compressor bus. So if I want to have like small quick compression, I put it through that, and I have the small reverb, a big reverb for big synths or for breakdowns. I have like a delay. I use a lot, a mono delay and a sidechain. So that are like the buses of effects I use a lot. So I'm gonna send this to the small effects one. So you have like the little edge. And then again I think it's also important to have also on the bus of your effect to have like an equalizer to remove all low frequencies of the lexicon reverb, because otherwise you have no control on what's happening on the signal of your reverb. So I always try to add like a small equalizing to the reverb as well. So now we have our new hi-hat, which needs a little bit of EQing. Just use like the standard again, just to keep the frequencies I want to have. Make a little bit of 10K, and remove all the top frequencies above 18,000, because I don't think in the end you're going to use a lot of 18,000 in your mix, because your air is only allowed to, you're only allowed to hear till 20,000, and the compressor and stuff. I think on every instrument you use, I think you don't need anything above the 18,000, maybe 90,000, because it only uses a little bit of your, I say that, mix, but I don't use it at all because you can't hear everything above 20,000. So I just cut it off at 18, 19, because you won't hear the difference between 19 and 20 at all. So that works to have like a little bit of headroom in the end of your mix. If you remove on every, if you actually remove the 18,000 on every single track. So that's something I do a lot, to keep a little bit of headroom in the end, and also cut a lot of low frequencies to have a little bit of space. So now I only have like the needed frequencies for the hi-hat. Which sounds pretty okay. I also think the bass needs to be cut off, like I need to have like a little high cut, because we're only going to use the low part of the bass. We don't need like the high part of the bass, as long as there is a high part. But there's always like this small attack you're going to hear. So I think this will do the job for now. So that works. And I think for the bass of the track, I'm already there, because now it's just looking for what I'm going to do. I'm going to use synths, or want to use like percussion. As I did for like Toulouse, that's how I started my track Toulouse before. I just started using the machine. I thought it was machine or massive. Oh, I think it's massive though. I just play around with some presets, and what doesn't sound like pretty good at all, but if you start playing with all kinds of inputs, I came to this modern talking one. that becomes pretty close already. And if you use a lot of LFO and stuff on different signals, also on the input and output, you already get like this. You already get like a more cool effect, and then it's more like a synth sound already. So yeah, it's pretty easy. So that's how I start out most of the time, with some synths, and then do some EQing, and it's actually I use a lot of overdrive as well, because overdrive is a nice way of adding a little bit of dirt to your synth without really crushing it. So it just depends. And then compressor, of course, because you want to have the same sidechain as your bass. So I'm going to take the same preset for that one. So it's okay for now. Oh. A little bit of quantizing, as long as I'm not really good in playing at the same time when we have delay. Yeah, so that's actually how I start with my track. This is like the bass and, you know, the sketch, how you start out. And then I just add like white noise, which playing the same rhythm to have a little bit of high frequencies in your synth. Use ESP for that, because I think the ESP is really, really cool to have. A really cool plugin, a really basic plugin, which does its job pretty good. If you listen to what it does. So, yeah, well, that's actually how I start out with kick, bass, a little loop, and a synth, and from here on I just gotta choose different instruments and make an arrangement, and, you know, building the track up. But this is actually the bass, and then just playing around with different synths, and sometimes I browse through different presets here. I made a few presets of my own, and I got a few from people I know really well, from friends of mine. And you just browse until you have the result you want to have. And for me, sometimes you turn out with playing something. It's a little bit distorted now, but yeah. Sometimes you hear like a cool sound and then you get triggered to use this sound and make something. I think it works for everyone at the same way. And then, yeah, I don't know, then just something pops up itself. Well, yeah, I just opened a project of Toulouse, and yeah, to be really honest, this track just kind of came together because I was listening to a few tracks which actually really inspired me, and I was like, okay, I want to have that part, I want to have that part, and that part together in one track, and that's actually how Toulouse popped up. And I just browsed quickly what I did to this track to make it as it is now. By arrangement, it's actually not a really difficult track. I just use like most of the time I use like a 1 minute intro, which means I think it's 8 bars. Is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I never look at the bars. I only look at the minutes most of the time. So I know at 30 minutes, a kick just punches in, and it's at 45, like a few hi-hats will be added, and I just have like an FX every 30 minutes most of the time. And I always have like FX at the beginning of the track, which a lot of people already notice. It's pretty funny. I always like have like this big reverb clap or like a big, just to make it intro, like. So at 30 minutes, at 30 seconds, I have a few instruments coming together. I made like a reverse sound for the guitar I use in the break. It's pretty easy, just like it's like just a reversed kind of effect. I'll just show you on how I did it later on. Yeah, then the track starts. Then there's this kind of gliding piano introducing the break. And it's pretty funny because a lot of people ask me how I did this guitar, or some people say organ, but actually it's not an organ at all. It's just like a standard stock sound from Logic, which sounds like this if you sound it like if you do a single shot. So it's actually a pretty normal sound and nothing special. And if you make a chord out of it, then it starts sounding cool. I thought it was like. And that's actually how I played around, and out of that I made a few layers, like a few layers from notes together. As long as I'm not like a great piano player, I can find my way, but I'm not really good. So I just started out playing like this simple melody. And after that, I started adding different layers of sounds, and then actually, if you put it all together, if I mute a few sounds. I just glue it together for now to make it more accessible for now, but that's actually it. Nothing more, nothing less. So if you browse to this, actually this is the sound for the breakdance, and if I put down all the effects I used on the track, then you have like this, which actually could have been processed by every single cheap ass kind of thing. It's really cheap sound, but if you put all the effects on it, it sounds pretty cool. Like especially the amp, especially the guitar amp, which does the job for this one. I just used like a preset called a Fox 30 watt tremolo TB. I didn't actually really know what this thing did, so I just browsed to the presets and see what worked for me, and it was this one that worked the best. So together with a limiter so it doesn't cross the red here, and an ozone to make it a little bit more sounding open and have a little bit more body, a channel EQ and a compressor, of course. You get this sound. And the second sound coming is the Nexus. And I think the cool part for this track is that it's not like chords which being held for all the time, but they're like pieces you hear all the time, and that's actually the cool part. That's actually what makes it a little bit different in my opinion as well. It wasn't on purpose because it just happened. I just played around and I just removed a few notes, and I was like, hey, it sounded cool when I just removed a little bit of the parts there and here. So that's how they came together.
You played it in, and then you cut it up.
Yeah, exactly. I just played it in, and I was like, okay. I added some notes, and then afterwards, by accident, I removed one note too much, and I was like, hey, it sounded pretty cool to leave this part, you know, and to just use a little bit of the melody, and that's how it came together. And this synth is being added in the break, and it's pretty cool because it has a wow filler, and that's why you get like this really, I don't know how to say it in English, but it's like it really grabs you, kind of. And if you put it together, and the bass is just EXS24. There's really nothing special happening in here. So. And here we have the Massive again. This is just the synth I made earlier. It's really easy, and you just make it out of choosing a different kind of sound in here from the OSC for modern talking, and if you put that together with white noise and the bass, and then again the second synth got added here to make it a little bit sound different. Just a different progression of this version. It sounds a little bit different. And there's like a small break sounding thing here I added like once in a while to make it a little dynamic. And it's basically, it's a synth called the Unique. I don't use it that much, just found out that it sounded really cool together, and I don't know. So most of the time the thing I do a lot is when I have this arrangement right here, it's always like 1 minute, or actually here it's 30 seconds break, and then 1 minute music, and then 1 minute break, and then 1 minute music again. That's actually what works for me. Most of the time I just take like the rough part in here. I think it's from 1:45. I'm sorry, 1:45 until 2:15, and then I have the other half is just groovy stuff. I think this part is really important to keep the calm in the track and to also get back to a little bit more relaxing part, because it's pretty aggressive. The track is pretty aggressive itself, so. So when we're into the break again, this is the big part. You have the running piano again, which is actually making this funny movement. It's done by the Effectrix with the vinyl. That's why it just keeps breaking down all the time. And then we're going into the... And a lot of things being added here. It's keys. And the cool thing about this keys is that it's like a plugin from Korg called the M1. I use this a lot because it's pianos which sound different than the Nexus ones, which many people use already. So I was like, I want to use a different piano, not everybody uses, so I used the M1 with a few plugins on it, just a small delay, ozone, and compressor. So without it sounds like this. And then we have like string plugs. Which are from Contact. because they always have like the nice kind of sounding stuff. And there's also one thing I want to mention. There's many people ask me how I did this whoosh you hear in a lot of my productions. As you see, it's called whoosh Axwell here because actually Axwell inspired me to make this whoosh. You hear it in a lot of Swedish House Mafia tracks as well. And I didn't get the sample. It's just, you know, if you use your ears, you actually find out how they did it. It's like I don't know how to say it, but it's like a weird sounding riser, which goes on and on, on and on. You can just, it's like an endless kind of phaser thing. And if you take the right EQ setting and the right phaser and the right plugin, then you'll have like this sound. I think it would not be good to tell anything because then you would not be triggered to do it yourself. So it's a good thing to, you know.
You made that in another Logic session.
Yeah. I saved the banks so I know how I did it, but it took me like 1.5 hours, and then you get this result. Just if you could listen closely, you're able to recreate everything. So maybe it doesn't sound as similar as I wanted, but it's getting close. And I use it in a lot now, and it just works because it's like it's got a lot of energy. You know what I mean? Like it's adding a lot of, I don't know, energy to the track. This is also a pretty funny part. It's by a plugin called Simpland. It's like really weird kind of plugin. It's like a plan you can just pull out together and move back again. It's really cool because it took me a while to get it done this way, because when you change something, it starts sounding a whole different every time. So after, to make it to make it rise up, it took me a while to get it done like in a nice way. So there's a plugin called Pitch Wheel which done the job for me, and I still use the demo version because because there's no working version out there for me. So it works pretty good. You can see. All right. So as you can hear, there's this part, you hear the riser pretty much. So that's basically where the track Toulouse comes from, and the sounds I used on Toulouse. And actually, if I see further, there's nothing. I have a few loops running there, a few on my own looped things. Like an own loop I did together with a clap I did, and like a standard part of a loop from Vengeance. There's a big snare. And some reverse snares to get like the and that's basically it for this track. Nothing really special happening here. Let's see, no. So that's about it, and that's how it came together. And now it's doing its job in the club. So it took me I think 5 hours to get there. Yeah. So the most important thing for this track, when I was mixing this, that actually the most important thing to do in general when I mix is that the kick and bass work well together. If you listen to the bass here, it's nothing more than a sign, but it's really important that it's being mixed in the right way, which can be done. I didn't even edit this one because I already mixed this one, so it's already good. But the most important thing, that if your sidechain is on, that there's got to be space left for the kick. If I put the kick on, you just hear like the kick got enough space, to punch through the mix, and that's really important to have. So if I put all the plugins on the master off in this case, it would still sound the same. There's nothing special I use on the master though. It's just a maximizer for now, and a little bit of EQing, and that's like the Neve from UAD.
Do you change your settings for EQ and for
all the time? Yeah, it just takes me like a little while to listen to the track. Okay, I missed it and that, and just like little small pieces and small EQing on there, and I just try to keep the maximizer doing nothing, just set on 0 dB everything, because I don't want to to stress the maximizer too much. So the mix has got to be good before it reaches the master bus. So actually, my goal always is that the track sounds the same before the master bus as it does after, with the only difference a few dBs, like a little bit of volume difference, but that's about it. So if I play this track now, it's will probably sound the same as it does with the master plugins, because many people always think if you have like good master plugins, then your track will sound way bigger, way more fat. You know what I mean? But in my opinion, if I put down the master chain and if I put everything off, it will still sound the same, just a little less hard. So and you can reach that by just EQ everything in the right way. So using the right samples, of course. So if I play the complete track now, it would just sound exactly the same without any difference. The only thing is that sometimes you have these peaks in your track, and you want to have them, like leveled, so you won't cross the 0 dB line here. But most of the time, my master chain doesn't do anything special. So it's just the mixing process, the most important thing, and which means you gotta like EQ the bass the right way, the synths you gotta make the right cuts, and you compress the right way. So if I just take this part here, just have my kicks, a little bit of loops. By the way, funny, the sound you hear is just a snare up. It's just a normal snare, and I made a pitch to get like this snare roll up here. It kind of reminds to Flash. It was like a joke back to the Flash remix I did ever. So I just wanted to use the snares. And if you play it all together, if I take a look at the EQing on each instrument, then you see on the snares, there's just a little bit of extra high frequency added here, like that's it, a 10K. Not even a low cut would be better though. I think I was too lazy to do that at the time. Then we have the claps and all the loops. I always give them like a low cut, so they won't use any frequencies below the 400 Hz, which is really important because you don't want to have the lower frequencies in your mix, not of the claps and the loops. So if you just separate the low frequencies like the basses and the kicks and stuff, and you separate the high frequencies like the loops, a little part of the synths, and also the effects, then you just have your, everything has like its own space and its own, area to work in. So I just try to remove all low frequencies here and add a little bit of high. So if I play this together, only the loops. So you will hear there's no low frequencies at all. No fuzzy, like no dirty sounds, no like lost low frequencies somewhere. It's just everything is being cut off, so it's only got the high frequencies, which is really important for your mix, because you don't want to, you don't want to have any low frequencies in your clap, because they will distort to the bass and to the kick and stuff. So that's what's really important to get a good mix. So if I just put it together, my synths. To listen to my synths, I also put like a low cut on every synth, so it only uses the the frequencies it's needed. For example, this part. For this one, I just did like a 37 hertz cutoff, which could have been a 100, for example, but I just thought this synth didn't need any more cutting though. But if you look at the analyzer, you'll see its most activity is up to 500 hertz. So yeah, there's not too much down there. But yeah, just to make sure it's not making any troubles with the bass and kick, I added like a 37 hertz, so it doesn't go below that. It sounds pretty okay together. To be honest, this bass should have have like a low cut, but I removed it somehow. I don't know why, but most of the time I do like a low cut like at 64 hertz or maybe 50 hertz, and then the energy comes most from the kick, which is really important in the clubs. You don't want to have your bass going too low in frequency, because then you'll just remove energy from the kick. So it's really important that your bass won't cross generally like 30-40 hertz. Depends on which key you play, of course, because if you get like a high key, like this bass is being played in, I'm not sure, I think in D. What is it? Yeah, most of it in D. So a D won't go to low in frequencies as a G or an A does. This goes like way deeper in the mix. So if you use this kind of frequency, or you use this kind of note, like the A, for example, then you will have to make sure you have a low cut at 50 hertz. That's what works for me, though, to make sure it's not like fighting with your kick. And as long as you use like for example, like a C or a D, then you can use like you can put it back here because it won't go any deeper. But yeah, that's just what works for me, though. And then if it comes together in your master bus, then actually, if everything has its own EQ setting, like the claps and the percussion doesn't have any low frequencies, the bass has a high cut, so you only have the low frequencies. And if everything is sidechained in the right way, you will have a very clean mix in the end. And then it's just a matter of fact, just putting on a compressor or a little bit of maximizer or a little bit of EQing to make it sound the way you like, and then you're actually done with mixing. That's actually how I work. To be honest, it's nothing really special. If you take it apart from the rest, just you soloed it. I just solo like the guitar part here. I'm just gonna duplicate the channel, so I'm not going to delete the thing I did already. So this is what we have, and because of the reverse thing here is the thing you hear is the first chord. So I'm gonna take the first part right here, and it will be, well, I think it's, yeah, just that. It's the first chord. And if you put like a really long reverb on it, for example, the Space Designer, which sounds pretty good in Logic plugins, You put like a really long reverb on it. That'll be enough. And I always take this part apart and I just bounce this part. You got to make sure that your master plugins are all switched off, because otherwise you'll have like a limited reverb and a limited synth, and you're going to limit it again in your production after. So you got to make sure there's any master plugins active when you do this. So you just bounce this part. For example, I just do it on desktop here, and then add it to audio bin. So then actually it just plays the single sound. I just did real time so I can check there's no reverb running while it ends. So that's why. And then you're going to make a new audio track. Gotta make sure it's stereo, because otherwise you have a mono sound, which you don't want to have. I go to my bin and I see here the thing I just bounced, and if I solo this, then you have the exact result of what we did here. So, because we want to have it reversed, you're just going to double click it. You go to functions and you hit reverse. And basically what happens, it doesn't only turn around the sound, but also the reverb, because we made it on audio. So if you play it now, then you'll have exactly the reversed synth and reversed effect, which you want to have in your production, which sounds pretty cool as an intro. So if you're going to play this together, it sounds pretty cool, like it's being kind of pushed in. And also a cool thing to do with this, if you've done this before, is to put like a tremolo on it, just to make it pan from left to right. That's something I do as well sometimes. So if you use a tremolo, you use the rate as 1 to 1/2. And you just hear it like going from left to right and panning it into the right sound. So that's a really cool effect.